Have you ever felt like you're walking in circles, trying, pushing, and yet going nowhere? In a world obsessed with speed, we celebrate the ones who run fast, climb high, and achieve more. But what about those who move slowly? Those who take one hesitant step at a time, unsure if their effort even matters? We live in a time where results are measured by how quickly they appear. Followers, numbers, success stories that happen overnight. And yet, deep down, there's a quiet truth we often forget. Growth is rarely visible while it's happening. Sometimes, the most powerful changes are forming beneath the surface, unseen, uncelebrated, but unstoppable. This is a story about a small tortoise who refused to rush, a creature mocked for its pace, yet guided by purpose. Every morning, it carried a tiny pebble on its back, a simple act that no one understood. Day after day, step by step, that pebble became more than a burden. It became a lesson. Stay till the end, because this story might just change the way you look at progress, patience, and the quiet power of small steps. At the edge of a quiet forest, where morning mist touched the grass and the air smelled of dew, there lived a small tortoise. Every creature in that forest had a role. The birds sang at dawn, the squirrels gathered nuts, and the deer danced in the meadows. But the tortoise, it simply watched, slow, silent, and often forgotten. Each day it would lift its head and gaze toward the towering mountain that rose far beyond the trees. Its peak disappeared into clouds, shining gold when the sun rose and fading blue at dusk. The tortoise had always wondered what the world looked like from up there. Yet each time it thought of climbing, a small voice whispered, "You'll never make it." "You're too slow." The other animals didn't mean to be cruel, but their laughter carried weight. "By the time you reach the first rock," they joked, "a new forest will have grown." The tortoise would smile faintly, pretending not to care, but deep inside, it felt something stirring, a quiet ache, a wish to prove that even slow steps can lead somewhere. One evening, as the fireflies lit up the forest path, the tortoise whispered to itself, "Maybe I can't be fast, but maybe I can be steady." And as the stars blinked above the mountain peak, it made a silent promise. One day, it would begin the climb. The next morning, the tortoise set out earlier than usual. The forest was still wrapped in the calm of dawn, and the first rays of sunlight filtered gently through the leaves. Along the winding path near a stream, the tortoise met an old figure resting beneath an oak tree. Another tortoise, aged and wise, with a shell marked by time and stories untold. "Where are you heading so early, little one?" the elder asked, his voice slow but kind. The young tortoise hesitated. "I want to climb the mountain," it said softly, almost embarrassed. "But everyone says I'll never make it." The old tortoise chuckled, a warm sound that seemed to carry both patience and understanding. "They may be right," he said, "if you try to race. But if you learn to carry, not just to climb, you might discover something greater." From beside him, the elder picked up a small pebble, smooth and shining with the light of the stream. He placed it gently on the young tortoise's shell. "Take this with you," he said. "Each day, walk a little toward the mountain while carrying this pebble. You may not reach the top quickly, but one day you'll understand what this journey was meant to teach you." The young tortoise frowned, confused. "A pebble? How could that help me climb?" The elder smiled. "Not every burden is meant to weigh you down. Some are meant to build you up," and with that, the old tortoise turned back toward the forest, leaving the young one standing alone, unsure yet quietly inspired, a small pebble gleaming on its back under the morning sun. The next morning, the tortoise began its journey. The mountain loomed far ahead. its rocky slopes veiled in fog, and the little pebble pressed gently on its shell. Light at first, almost meaningless. Each step was slow, careful, deliberate. The tortoise would walk a few yards toward the mountain, then turn back before sunset, resting by the stream where it first met the old mentor. Days passed. The pebble felt heavier. Its back ached. The laughter of other animals echoed through the forest. "Still carrying that useless rock?" a rabbit teased. "Even the snails are faster than you." At times, doubt whispered louder than determination. Maybe they're right, the tortoise thought. What difference could one pebble, one step, possibly make? But each time discouragement crept in, it remembered the elder's words. Not every burden is meant to weigh you down. Some are meant to build you up. So it continued, one small step after another. The forest floor gave way to gravel, then to stone. Its legs trembled, but with every climb, its strength grew. The pebble that once felt heavy now seemed lighter, as though the tortoise had grown into it. Seasons changed. Leaves turned golden, then fell, then sprouted green again. Years went by. The tortoise had reached halfway up the mountain. It paused, panting beneath the twilight sky, and looked down at the valley. The forest below now looked so small. It realized that the path it once feared was now behind it, one slow step at a time. But just as it took another step, the pebble slipped from its shell and tumbled down the slope, vanishing into the mist. For a moment, panic struck. That pebble had been its companion, its purpose. Without it, the tortoise felt strangely empty. Then it noticed something. The shell that had once been soft and fragile was now strong, smooth, and gleaming from years of carrying weight. It was no longer the same tortoise that had started at the foot of the mountain. The pebble was gone, but its lesson remained, etched into every curve of the tortoise's back. As the tortoise stood in silence, the wind brushed softly against its shell. The sky was painted in shades of amber and gold, and the mountain seemed to whisper ancient secrets. From behind a boulder, a familiar voice spoke, calm, warm, and steady. "You've come far," said the old tortoise, emerging slowly from the shadows. "But tell me, little one, what did you learn from your pebble?" The young tortoise bowed its head. "At first I thought it was a burden," it admitted. "I carried it because you told me to, though I didn't understand why. Some days I hated it. Other days I forgot it was even there. But when I lost it, I realized it had shaped me. My back grew stronger, my patience deeper, my steps steadier." The old tortoise nodded, his eyes gleaming with quiet pride. "That pebble," he said, "was never meant to reach the top. It was meant to teach you how to climb. Every small step you took with it made you stronger, even when you couldn't see it. That is how progress works. Silent, invisible, but always growing." He looked out toward the horizon. In life, we often chase big leaps, hoping for instant change. But strength, purpose, and transformation are built one step at a time. Every effort, no matter how small, shapes who we become. The young tortoise looked down the mountain path, miles of stone, struggle, and slow, steady movement. For the first time it smiled, not because it had reached the peak, but because it finally understood. The climb itself was the gift. And as the sun dipped below the edge of the mountain, the tortoise whispered, "The pebble didn't slow me down. It built me up." When dawn returned, the tortoise stood near the mountain's edge, the clouds parting just enough for the first light to touch its shell. It looked down and saw the winding path it had taken. uneven, steep, and endless. Yet every mark on the ground told a story. The story of persistence. It didn't matter that the tortoise was slow. It didn't matter that others had doubted. What mattered was that it never stopped moving. Every day, it carried a little more faith, a little more strength, and a little more understanding of what it meant to keep going even when no one was watching. At that moment, the tortoise realized that success isn't about how quickly you climb. It's about how deeply you grow while climbing. The peak was no longer a destination, but a reflection of what patience had built within. As the sun rose higher, golden light spread across the mountain, wrapping the tortoise in warmth. And with a peaceful breath, it began walking again. Not because it needed to reach the top, but because every step now carried meaning. Remember this: the smallest steps taken in faith are stronger than the biggest leaps taken in haste. The journey is slow, but it is steady, and steady always wins. Somewhere on that mountain path, beneath the soft glow of the morning light, the tortoise kept climbing. One small, faithful step at a time. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who might be struggling with slow progress or feeling left behind. Remind them that every small step counts, that even the quietest efforts shape something strong within. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join our growing community of dreamers and believers. Each week, we share stories that rekindle hope, courage, and faith in the slow but beautiful process of becoming. Because in the end, it's not about how fast you move, it's about never stopping. Keep walking, one small step at a time.